see, we've switched over from Facebook Live over to YouTube. And tonight, with the switch over to YouTube, it was too big of a show for just one guest. So instead of just one member from XOS Digital, we've got two. Jeff Morton and Anthony Williams will be joining us here shortly. But first and foremost, we've got a few things that we've got to give away from last week, I believe. We had our 3 Adidas cleats winners. If you remember, we had a couple technical difficulties, so we had to give out a couple extra pairs of cleats. But our 3 winners, and I got them down here: Keith Long, Alex Jasper, and Daniel Simon. You are our Adidas cleats winners from last week. We'll be reaching out to you guys at some point tomorrow, and you guys got yourselves a fresh pair of Adi Zeros. So thanks again for participating last week. We hope that you tuned in this week and enjoyed tonight's show. Now, as we've switched over to YouTube, we encourage everybody, please leave a comment in the section like every week. Let us know who you are, where you're from, if you've attended any FBU camps in the past. Additionally, please like our YouTube page. Go ahead and click the bell for us. Subscribe to our Football University YouTube page. From here on out, we'll be having all of our FBU Huddle episodes live through our YouTube page. So we're excited to be shifting over to this platform, and we're excited to get started tonight. So let's bring them in. Our friends from XOS, some of the best in the business when it comes to scouting, recruiting, and evaluating talent. First and foremost, the man, the myth, the legend, Jeff Martin. Jeff, how you doing tonight?
Doing good, Matt. How are you?
I thought I was doing okay until I saw your setup, and I realized that I'm not doing okay at all. I need to get that going on. What do you got, 4 computers going on back there?
I got 4 24-inch high-def monitors hooked up to my laptop.
Hey, I mean, you got to have that if you're spending all day watching film, right?
These days, yes, 12 hours a day.
I like it. I like it. And then I believe we've got Anthony Williams with us as well, or at least the ghost of Anthony Williams is joining us as well right here. Anthony, how you doing tonight, sir?
Matt, I'm great. How are you?
Hey, we're doing fantastic. We're excited to get going. Jeff, why don't we start with you? Tell everybody a little bit about kind of how you got started in football, what your background is, and how you ultimately got over to XOS.
Well, I started coaching in 1992 in Florida, high school. Coached for 20 years. About midway through that, when my second child was born, we don't make a lot of money in Florida coaching and teaching, so I started a recruiting service myself called High Tech Video in Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana. And then after I moved to Tallahassee, after a few years, XOS started wanting to go into the recruiting business. So they hired a bunch of people and they offered me a job. And after 20 years of coaching and teaching, I decided to get out and go work for XOS.
Hey, not a bad way, not a bad transition at all. But it sounds like you kind of have been in football your whole life, and this kind of seems like a natural progression into what you're doing now. Shifting over as we kind of go over to our other guest, Anthony. Tell the viewers at home a little bit about your overall, history with the game of football. I know you've got a huge history with football, so maybe give the viewers a little bit of insight on that and how you got to XOS.
Yeah, so played all my high school and college ball out in California, where I'm from, in the Bay Area, San Jose, California. Eventually got cut by the Niners back in the day. So I took 2 paths. I actually worked in Silicon Valley as an engineer during the day, and in the afternoon I changed clothes in my car and I coached high school ball and college ball up until I had kids. And then obviously my oldest son, Aaron, coached him in Pop Warner up through at the National Combine, played the Army game, and then he went on to a successful career at University of Texas and with the Buffalo Bills. Since that time, I then transitioned over to FBU and started as one of the regional directors. And I've done a little bit of everything working with you. I've done coaching, I've done brand development, and right now I'm focused on the development of curriculum for football camps going forward here for you.
That's fantastic, and I think a great thing tonight for the viewers is, sometimes we take listening for granted, and they might not be able to see you, up close and personal, but they got to listen to you. And I know you're one of the best, coaches in the country. I know that a lot of our student athletes watching tonight have maybe seen you at one of our camps and understand the passion and intelligence that you bring to the position as a head coach in one of our camps. But before we dive into some of the questions that we have at FBU for you guys, I want to encourage everybody that's tuned in right now, like every week, hey, submit some questions. We want to hear from you. Jeff and Anthony are here to answer your questions. Yes, we're excited about having a discussion with them, but tonight is for you guys, for the viewers. So feel free to drop some questions in the comments, and we'll make sure that Jeff and Anthony have the chance to answer them. Additionally, make sure that you stop by footballuniversity.org to create a profile. We want to make sure that we're able to get you guys any information out about FBU and what we're doing. Also, if you're looking for the FBU Top Gun Showcase invite, you might have seen a couple of those trickling around on social media. Just got to submit some film. Now is the time to earn your invite. July 10th through 12th in Naples, Florida. Top Gun Showcase. Anthony Williams going to be there. XOS Digital going to be there. Make sure that you submit some film to FBU Scout at footballuniversity.org. The email address will be in the comments. But let's get to the meat and bones tonight. Jeff.
Yes, sir.
With everything that is going on with COVID-19, how has this really impacted not only you and XOS as a whole from a recruiting standpoint, but shed a little light a couple weeks later, now that we're into this, on the impact that it's having currently and will have in the future for some of our student athletes from a recruiting perspective?
Well, it changes week to week with what's going on with the pandemic. What it's done for us is, we spend most of the spring, 10, 12 straight weekends on the road at either camps or 7-on-7s or combines. And what that really did is our wives got honey-do lists out for us to do homework and stuff like that, because, it's impacted it a whole lot to where the colleges are spending a lot of their time watching film, and we're the same way. I mean, I joked about it earlier about my 4 monitors, but I mean, I'm honestly 12 hours a day watching film all the way from, Florida, Georgia, all the way to Texas on kids, and, doing evaluations and sending out things on, on Twitter and everything to our college clients. And, it's impacted it a bunch to where the biggest problem is the college coaches, especially down here in the South, haven't been able to go to the schools during the spring. And as of today, the SEC just passed that there will not be anything even in the month of July on campus. So, things are changing every day about the colleges of when they can bring people in and their own players. And so it's just going to be a matter of, sitting and waiting it out.
Yeah, I think that's been the challenging part about this entire situation, Jeff, is that it is continuously evolving.
Right.
Yesterday it's one thing. Today we find out about the SEC. Heavy hit to my heart. Some of the viewers probably know, South Carolina grad. So I hated seeing that news, and we all feel for the student athletes that aren't getting the chance to maybe communicate with some colleges and have the chance to perform in front of them during these critical off seasons.
Well, the one good thing that the NCAA just passed was they did extend the dead period until June 30th, but they did go to unlimited Zoom meetings and stuff with coaches, with athletes. So they're being able to communicate with them much longer. And even during the dead period, they just can't have them on campus, which, what this at this point last year with the class of 2020, there was maybe 200 commitments. We're over 400 to 500 commitments already for the 21 class. I mean, the kids are locking in early because they don't want to, mess it up, because a lot of kids are getting worried they're not getting the publicity yet. But the college, they're what we used to call the tweeners, where the colleges aren't ready to pull the trigger on them, but they're waiting for fall film. and that's what they're waiting on. And a lot of kids are getting worried. So as soon as they get an offer and it's a committable offer, they're committing.
Yeah, they're snatching it up. I mean, that certainly seems to be a trend. Instead of kind of playing the waiting game, it's when they get one, they're going. And film's going to continue to be king, right? You know, in the fall when the pads are on, that's what these college coaches are looking at.
Yes,
you
sir.
said something interesting, Jeff, that I want to kind of go back on. The impact of the NCAA change right there to provide online, you know, I guess an unlimited amount of Zoom interactions, right? That's a historic change, right, in terms of how they can communicate with players.
Yes. I mean, they've always been able to text and stuff, but not during dead periods.
Right.
So them being able to call, I mean, the only downside to all this right now is, like I said, the colleges couldn't go out and see them face to face, but at least they're getting in and seeing them on Zoom and, seeing body type and, their mentality, how they carry themselves and things like that, which will help. I mean, they're not committing to a coaching staff because they can't. I mean, so they have to get on campus. So that's the thing that's really hurting even the kids, is being able to go and get on campuses. I mean, I talked to a parent this morning. She's all worried because of all the closings that her son, who's an Ivy League type kid, can't get up to the Ivy League camps because they're not going to have them. And, that type of kid, that's going to really hurt them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it certainly is a really difficult process, for, a student athlete at that type of level, maybe looking for that Ivy League offer. And it's obviously, horrible. It's just a really difficult situation for a lot of the 2021s that are going into this is their final, true final off season to a certain degree before their final year. And Anthony, I kind of want to swing you in here a little bit to ask you a question about that. What is the impact that this really is having on the 2021 class, and what can they do to almost make up for that? They're missing out on some of this offseason. What would you encourage these 2021s to focus on now to maybe generate some recruitment?
I would say simply embrace technology. There are a lot of those out there that are going to complain about, the situation and continue to point the problem, and somebody needs to fix it, and where's the vaccine? And then there are other players who are like, you know what, I'm going to embrace Zoom. I'm going to embrace looking at my Twitter and my Instagram and my other social media channels as a way of promoting myself since I can't get on campus. We're seeing this from a lot of college coaches, a lot of coaching staffs now. They're being creative and doing these virtual on-campus visits, which I think are great. Being a technology guy, being an engineer, an MBA guy, I love the problem this is having, and I love how people are attacking a solution to help them enhance their recruiting. I would tell players, obviously to embrace your social media channels and understand that it is now a weapon. It is a tool to offset COVID-19. So everything you put out there from your bio in Twitter needs to have all the information a college coach wants to have: what class you are, what position you are, your GPA, any test scores, anything out there that can help them move you down the recruiting process is going to be vital. So it's a challenge to those who really want it bad, Matt. Get out there and really research technology and how you can maximize it to offset the gap that is currently with COVID-19.
And hopefully, Anthony, I think that's just a really great piece of advice for people that are tuning in. And obviously they're embracing a little bit of technology tonight, hopefully watching this broadcast. But players, there is no limits to your ability to utilize what's available to you. Definitely heed some of the advice that Anthony just provided alongside the information that Jeff provided in terms of how the recruiting structure and all of these things are changing during this current time. But let's move on a little bit. I think one of the things we always hear, Jeff and Anthony, is how do we get a profile? How do I get an XOS profile? How do I get recruited by a college? What do I need to be doing? Well, look at that. It's not even the ghost. We got to take a second to talk about that. Live and living color. There he is, folks. That's Anthony Williams. Okay. So Now that we got the three amigos in color here, let's move on to how do we get an XOS profile for some of our student athletes that are viewing in. Jeff, tell the viewers at home, how would they go about getting a profile with you guys, and why is that beneficial?
Well, just like what's scrolling down at the bottom, that's our online prospect form.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody can go fill it out. It goes directly to our regional directors. And what they'll do is they'll pull it up, watch the film, do an evaluation, put a rating on you. We don't do rankings as far like stars and 24/7. We put in there what level we think they can play for the next level. Like if it's FCS, FBS, Division II, NAIA. And then they'll put all their information in. And every day, we send out a daily report to our college clients. Here are the kids that were updated, added, offers, all that kind of stuff. And then we do a weekly at the end of the week. So we encourage our student athletes, even when they fill it out the first time, if in 2 weeks they've gained 5 pounds or they got tested or they get their grades in, they get a better GPA, fill it out again, and we'll update it, and it'll automatically update to our 250 plus colleges.
Well, I think that's a really great point, and I hope that people are listening into that, is that you're not stuck with the metrics, the sizes, the things
Right.
that maybe you put in there initially. It's evolving. I think a lot
Right.
of student athletes get worried about that. We see profiles all the time that are outdated and old, and college coaches don't know what they're looking at. So
right. I had a young man in Georgia mention one of our clients were talking to him, and they said that we had him at 5'9". Well, that's what he measured at one of the Nikes last year, or the Adidas Rivals thing, or whatever. Well, there weren't any this year to verify.
Right.
So he videoed himself getting his height and then videoing the scale with his mom. And then I changed it and updated it in our system. And that's something that we do. We want the best for the kids. And, and we're an impartial person. We're not a college coach. We're not a high school coach. We're telling the colleges exactly how we feel. Are we right every time? No, but we're giving those kids. And the biggest thing is it's free to the high school kids.
Well, I think that it's skin in the game, right? And your skin in the game as XOs is to have accurate information, right?
Yes, sir.
And have college coaches and student athletes that can rely on your service. So I think that and enough is enough skin, and it allows you to stay impartial, like you mentioned, in terms of getting all associated with the rankings and the stars and things like that. So I think it's a good separator. So
well, Matt,
Anthony, follow up on that.
Yeah, no, so I was just going to say, I think Jeff outlined it perfectly. I think it's important for families and players out there to understand, this supply chain of high school recruiting. There's a lot of moving parts. You have recruiting services, you have workout trainers, you have 7-on-7, you've got Rivals, 24/7 ESPN. I think the one thing that Jeff has taught me since I've joined the team is that we are a scouting service that provides data. We're a technology company that provides data. And so our end customer is the college recruiting staff and the coaches. It's not the player. We're not trying to get people to sign up for a message board. Everybody's different. And so we have to rely on, as Jeff mentioned, the proper height and weight, and doing a truly objective evaluation of athletes, because that data is going to go to a coach. And if that data is wrong, then they're not going to renew with us. So it's just important for players and families to understand the difference between recruiting services and scouting services as they go through the process.
I think that's an interesting designation between the two. And one thing that I think I'd like for you guys to maybe explain a little bit further is this relationship. And Anthony, you just brought it up, was our service is really meant for, the universities and their coaching staffs. And we're using the data and the technology to provide them with the accurate information to help them recruit the student athletes that are tuned in. So talk to our viewers a little bit. Anthony, I'll start with you, and then Jeff, follow up after him. Is what is that relationship with the college coaches? Explain to our viewers, how have you guys initiated some of that, some of those relationships? Walk us through the process of having a college university become an XOS client and how they would leverage your services.
Well, first, it's a good question. It first starts with Jeff and his team, all of our data guys that are collecting all this data and putting it inside of our platform, XOS Digital and the Scout platform. Once it gets in there, then we generate reports, as Jeff mentioned earlier, that goes out to college coaches and their recruiting staff. Once they get those reports, they will then reach back out to people like myself and Jeff and the rest of our team across the country and ask more specific questions. Sometimes not about the data, Matt, but more about, hey, how much have you seen of this kid? Have you seen him live? What's his character like? Is he coachable? How does he respond when he's down 10 in the fourth quarter? How does he respond when things don't go his way? How does he respond to adversity? So we develop these relationships really about things that you can't find in a huddle video or on a profile that talks about the specific height and weight and GPA and things like that. So I think that's where our relationship goes beyond the data, is that they trust us. We're all football guys, and we obviously know that they are our client, and they rely on our accurate, objective information for them to go make the process of moving that player down the recruiting process.
And we all know how it's in college football. It doesn't matter, right? You've got to be accurate, and you've got to be objective in terms of how you are evaluating and the information that you provide. So I think that's great intel. So hopefully, to our viewers at home, you kind of understand the process a little bit. Jeff, I want to bring you kind of back in, and I want to ask you a question. We love to do this on here. All right, we got questions and people commenting. They're firing in from all over. And Teresa asked a great question. She says, "Is the XOS rating viewable to the athlete through the profile, or is it just available to the college coaches?"
Yeah, it's our system, because we have so much information on the child or athlete and the mother's name and her cell and all that kind of stuff, that all of our stuff is locked behind a firewall, only viewable by the college coaches and ourselves. We don't allow people to get on there, because we're doing evaluations. Like I said earlier, we're impartial, so we're not killing a kid with our evaluations, but there might be some things that a parent might not want to hear, and that happens all the time when we're at FBU camps or combines or whatever, and a parent goes, "Tell me about my son," and we say, "Do you want the truth? And don't get mad. Here are the things he needs to work on. Here's great things. Here's what he needs to work on." And some people don't like to hear that kind of stuff. So, our stuff is all locked behind, only so the colleges can see it.
Well, we got you locked behind right now. We got you stuck behind the screen, and
well, yeah,
and you'd be able to give bad news to any parent right now because they can't see you, Jeff. All right, it'd be me and Anthony taking the heat on that one, man.
Exactly.
But and I think our man Joe back there is figuring a couple things out in regards to our technical situation. But Jeff, you mentioned something there interesting about the face-to-face interaction that you have at events, okay? And Anthony mentioned in his statement that you guys are able to provide those little nuances of body language, demeanor, face-to-face interaction, some of those additional things that you can only get at an event, right?
Yes.
So why don't you talk to Jeff? Why don't you talk a little bit to our viewers about when you go to an event, what you're looking for, and what are some of the things that really strike out, really strike you when it comes to evaluating a kid?
Well, the first thing is, depending on what the kind of event that we're at. If it's during the season, we're at Friday. I coach too long. I'm at games Thursday nights, Friday nights. I'll drive to a game in Birmingham, Alabama on a Friday night and drive right back home afterwards. So I'll drive 5 hours to a game and come home. But it's just like an event. We're out there to find the players to help our clients, and so we're looking for the ones that stand out during the game. Even if the second team's going in and a player hasn't played all game, gets in the game, and he stands out, and he's a young one, we're going to write his name down. We're going to get in touch with the coach. Same thing goes for a camp. I always start, especially at FBUs, I start out at DBs because I coach DBs forever, and I can watch them in drills, and I can tell who's got the feet, who's got the hip transition, all that kind of stuff. So I start out and I write things down. The the technology's gotten great. I've gone to, from writing on pads of paper to dictating into a microphone to now writing straight on my iPad. And then what we do is we gather all that information, even if it's a 2 or 3 day event, every day when we get back and we're in our room, we gather that information. Well, then I turn around and go to their huddle film, because I see what I see in shorts. Now I want to see it in pads. If they don't have any huddle film yet, then I just put notes, of what I had in there and to check back, during the season. So, we go and we don't base everything off an event, because all it is gives us a list of names so we can go back and watch their game film, because that's where it is.
Yeah, well, what I think that's exactly what you just said, Jeff, is the event or the camp, the off-season combine or showcase,
right,
for you student athletes are trying to figure out, and some of you parents, if you're deciding whether or not to send your student athlete to something like that, it is important, because
yes,
it is a proverbial first step into the door.
right.
It gives the evaluators the chance to turn on the film, right, Jeff?
Right. And there was a kid from Denham Springs, Louisiana, I think it was, down at the showcase down before the freshman All-American game down in Naples.
Yeah, future showcase. And
I was sitting there, and he was committed to Houston, I think it was, for baseball. And I started watching him. I'm like, son, you got a future in football. And I got all of his information, got him eval'd and everything. Well, now he's got 2 or 3 Division I football offers, and he's just a sophomore, I think it is. So, it starts with, shining and showing, because the great thing about camp situations like that is we can see mechanics that we don't necessarily see out on the field every time. But then when we see their mechanics and we know they're good, now we want to go see them in game time situations.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think the if I could summarize that to everybody watching is, look, it shows the importance and the prevalency of attending an off-season camp or combine. The second thing Jeff pointed out is how that's going to open the door to watching your huddle film, and I think the third thing you said, Jeff, is if you play DB, you've got a good chance to be seen by you first and foremost at any camp or event.
Yeah,
so, you defensive backs out there just might hit a little bit of a lottery. So, now Anthony, I think that there's Jeff kind of summarized the process, right, of the evaluation, but there is so much activity right now that I think it gets a little convoluted and almost overwhelming for parents to pick, what event do I go to? Right? What combine do I go to? What showcase do I go to? What camp do I go to? There seems to be a million of them out there. As a former player, as a father of a former player, what would you tell parents in terms of how to select which events their son should attend?
That's a great question. Before I get to it, Matt, I want to add a little bit to what Jeff was saying earlier, just so parents and players who are watching understand. One thing that when Jeff's here in Texas, what I do is I get to games early. I like to watch and evaluate kids even during pregame when they're stretching. How are they interacting with their teammates, their coaching staff, things like that. I also watch them when they come off the field. How are they coachable? When a coach has all the defense on the bench and he's going over adjustments, is he looking up to the crowd and see where his girlfriend's at, or is he locked in on the coach? All those things are being evaluated. I want players to understand we're not just evaluating you on the field. We're evaluating what kind of character you have, what kind of leadership you have, your coachability, and how you respond to adversity throughout the game. And so I think that's on top of what Jeff said, it's important for them to understand that. Now to answer your question about the events you should be going to, I really think because there's so many of them out there that parents and players should do their due diligence and make sure that they're going to the right event for the right reason. They need to do some background on and ask the people who are hosting it. Who are you contact with? How is this going to help my son? How is the information getting out there? Those are questions that are okay for a parent to ask before they put down hard-earned money to go to an event that they think is going to help their son in the recruiting process. So to me, it comes down to simply, is this event going to help my son compete at a higher level? Is this event going to help my son improve his technique in any way? Or is this event going to be out there to help my son get more visibility in the recruiting process? Some of your questions should be based around those 3 buckets of questions to any event organizer.
And I think any event, worth a grain of salt, would be happy to field those questions. So, parents out there, don't be shy. Pick up the phone, call whoever is running the event and ask those questions that Anthony just outlined. Those are imperative for you to know, because going to the right event and being in front of the right people, as Jeff outlined, is a huge deal in your son's potential recruitment. And as Anthony mentioned, in his overall development as a player. So, certainly appreciate that advice, guys. I think it's spot on. I want to take a question from an audience member, but I do want to let everybody know, look, we want everybody tonight, please continue to comment, ask questions, visit footballuniversity.org to create a profile so that we can continue to provide you with more football-based knowledge and information. Same with XOS. You've seen their XOS profile link running across the bottom of the screen. It is also in the chat room. Encourage you guys to all make an XOS profile. We're excited to have, people like Jeff and people like Anthony, down at our event at the FBU Top Gun Showcase, July 10th through 12th. If you want to be invited to that, it's the showcase of the summer, baby. July 10th through 12th in the Paradise Coast. We're going to evaluate some film, so send it in to FBU Scout at footballuniversity.org for your chance to get reviewed by people like Anthony, like Jeff, like the national director of the selection committee for the All-American Bowl on NBC. These are the guys that are watching your film to decide whether or not you deserve an invite to the Top Gun Showcase. But let's keep it moving. Jeff, one thing that you told me, and we've had many conversations, it's been a joy to get to know you over the past few months, especially down in Naples last December, was you get frustrated sometimes when you turn on a highlight tape and you don't even know what you're watching.
Right.
And we got kids here that, they need to start creating this film. So
Right.
why don't you walk through some of the do's and don'ts when it comes to creating a highlight film?
Okay, well, the biggest thing is you got to keep it simple, stupid. All right, the college coaches will have a list. Here are the 10 kids I got to watch today. It doesn't matter if it's Power 5 level or NAIA level. They got a list of 10 kids they're going to watch that day. If you don't wow them in the first 3 or 4 plays, they're going to go to the next person. Now, that being said, you can make a 8 or 9 minute highlight film on your huddle for your personal thing. What you need to then turn into is take the 24 best plays and make a recruiting video, because you sit there and go, it's got your junior highlights on Huddle. Well, then put your recruiting highlights, and then they can put something that's smaller that they can watch, and you put your 24 best plays, and you put your 4 or 5 tremendous plays at the beginning, so that it catches their eye and keeps them watching. So
why 24, Jeff? Any specific reason?
24 breaks down. That's always been the standard that we've been doing since 1998. Is 24 plays gives you almost 4 minutes of highlights. That's enough. They don't want to be sitting there and combing through. I was watching a quarterback, I think from Texas the other day, and his first 20 plays were all fade routes for touchdowns. I get it. Those are nice plays. But I had to start clicking through and going through, because I wanted to see, throwing the out route from one hash to the other side. I wanted to see him throwing the curl, the, digs, running, all that kind of stuff. I get it. 20 fades for touchdowns are great for your highlight film, but you got to have a recruiting film to where, okay, the first 2 maybe or 1, and then you start breaking down other things and putting those in there for your recruiting tapes.
I think that makes sense, and I think we've all seen it a little bit. I know you get way more than I do, and right. I know Anthony gets just as much as you do, and right. it's tough sometimes to have to sift through, exactly. 3 to 4 minutes of I've seen the same play now 15 times. Right. I get it. I think that's a great point. So student athletes, listen up. Make sure that you are kind of organizing your highlights correctly, so that the people that do want to offer you a scholarship, that they're not turning the page too quickly.
Well,
Anthony, what are your I'm sorry, Jeff, go ahead.
All right. The other thing, the biggest thing, especially that college coaches complain about, and so do we, is stopping the film in the middle of the play. Like a DB or something, even though they may be on the screen, they wait until the midway through the play to put the fancy circles on, or the here's me and all this kind of stuff. And what that does is the colleges and ourselves, it stops in the middle of the play. They don't see you full speed and making that hit and running through the tackle or whatever. I've seen where receivers are on the screen and they wait till they start about to catch the ball before they put the mark on it. Try to do your marks before the play starts. They want to see the live action all the way through the play. They don't want to see it stop so they can do the highlight and then follow through, and 2 steps later you're making the hit. They want to see the full play run through. They don't want pauses in between.
I think that's an amazing point, because I think that's been definitely a newer tradition, or
Right.
a newer fad, where the play is stopping and you get the cool little graphic that says "Watch this," right?
Right.
It's well, we are watching this. That's why we click play. So
Right.
there's no need to pause the film in the middle right there.
Exactly.
Anthony, before getting your thoughts on it, I want to bring in a quick question from one of our viewers, because it's pertinent to what we're talking about right now. Brian Davidson asked, Jeff, is the 24 plays total for defense and offense, if they play both ways or even 3 ways? I think that's a great question. What if we've got somebody that is a 2-way player, or maybe is really fantastic on special teams? How would you suggest to them organizing those clips?
Well, first, Brian, great question. The first thing that we want to look at is, what do they project themselves at the next level? If they project themselves as a DB, then they need to make their highlight film the first 20 plays or whatever, or 17 plays as the defensive back. And then if they also play wide receiver or kick returner, put those on. You don't want to – I've seen the kids that would put, like, if they were a kick returner, they show one that goes for a touchdown, and then the next one's a 20-yard return. The 20-yard return doesn't show anything. If you're a returner, show one kickoff return for a touchdown, or a punt return for a touchdown, or whatever. Showing a 20-yard return doesn't help, but you have to project yourself of what level you think you can, what position and what level you think you can play, and that's what the predominantly plays. Now, if you go to 30 plays, doing 3 different positions, that's fine. You just don't want to get into these. I had a kid 5 years ago in Alabama had 12-minute highlight film. Now, that's fine if you want to burn a DVD and give it to yourself, but some of his best plays were at 11 minutes. So that's what you have to play around with. That I've seen kids that'll put a 20 clip defensive highlight film and a 20 clip offensive highlight film, but you don't want to have to go switch and all that kind of stuff. You got to project. If you're a 6'2", 210-pound fullback and linebacker, I would be putting your linebacker plays on first, because there's not much room for fullbacks anymore, even though you could be an H-back. But the same thing goes if you're an offensive lineman and you also play some part-time defensive lineman. You want to put your best offensive line plays up there and then put those defensive plays in there. Like if you got a sack, put it in the middle of put it as one of your top plays. They just want to see your movement and things like that. So you can play. The 24 is not a given set and standard, but you don't want to get it to where it's more than 5 minutes. 4 to 5 minutes is getting a little lengthy, getting closer to that 5-minute mark.
Getting a little heavy,
Yes.
You want to make sure it's a thinly trim, nicely packaged.
Yes.
Much like this right here, just a beautiful package in front right here for the viewers,
Yeah.
for your recruiting film.
Exactly.
Anthony, I want to ask one more question from our audience, and it kind of goes back to your conversation and comments on college coaches a little bit. And I believe you coached this young man down in San Antonio this year at an FBU camp. Daniel O'Neill asked, as a young quarterback, what is the best way to get myself and my film in front of college coaches? It's a Joe Buffard question right here, AW.
Yeah, two-part question. So, Danny, it's good to see you. Danny was one of the most talented eighth grade quarterbacks I have seen in a long time. So I really enjoyed working with him down in San Antonio and talking with his mom. Danny, you and I talked about this a little bit at camp, but bottom line is for the word I would give for you is patience. Right now, you've got college coaches really focused on class 21 and 22. Even some of the kids that Jeff and I saw and helped register at down in Naples in the class of 23 at the Freshman All-American Bowl, they're getting itchy, like, what can I do? So, Danny, you being in class 24, you just got to show the respect and the patience of letting those guys go through their cycles and just keep doing what you're doing with your workout coach there and getting film out there. And believe me, I can tell you that you're not going to have any problem of people knowing who you are and where you are because of the talent and hard work you put into your position. That's the one thing for Danny. Going back to what you talked about with Jeff, I'm old school, and I know Jeff's like this also. He's being kind of nice, but to me, Matt, a player, you get 5 plays. If you don't blow me away, if my jaw doesn't hit the table when I'm watching those first 5 plays, I'm usually going to turn it off. So I don't care if that play is an offensive play or defensive play or a special teams play. The first 5 plays need to be not your routine tackle after an 8-yard gain. They need to be like that kid can play at a P5 school or an academic 5 school or a NAIA school, whatever. But that's the first thing. I'm not going to wait. Jeff mentioned it earlier. If that one of your best explosive jaw-dropping plays is in minute 11, I'm never going to see it because I have 200 other huddle lists to look at by the end of the day, along with position meetings and scheme and all that kind of stuff. It's just not going to happen. So my advice to a lot of these players would be go through, like Jeff said, go through your entire video and find the 5 best plays that show your speed, strength, athleticism, explosiveness, and playmaking ability, and pick those first. After those first 5, then focus on your position to the point that Jeff did earlier. If I'm a quarterback, show a fade route, show a dig, show a skinny post, show those moving the pocket, show how you climb the pocket, show how you check down to a running back in the backfield to make a play, or show plays showing plays with moving your feet. Those are things that coaches have to then evaluate. Once they get past the explosiveness, then it becomes about technique, football IQ, and things like that. I tell a lot of running backs also that if you're a running back, for example, I don't want to see a 90-yard play. I want to see you also catch the ball in the backfield. I want to see you step up and hit a blitzing linebacker or safety in the mouth in pass protection. I want to see you get a tough game on 3rd and 3. I mean, those are the things that coaches want to see after your explosiveness. Jeff and I watched a lot of video, and I'll be honest, there's a lot of videos where I'm wondering what that player was thinking when he put that clip on his video because it's a rare play. I'm a DB, Jeff's DB guy. The guy caught a 10-yard out for a first down. He caught it. I tackled him, and I'm getting up and I'm celebrating. And it's like, why? How is that impressive? How does that show you that you can play in the Big 12, the ACC, or the SEC? So those are some of the hints that I would have for some of the players is really take a step back and maybe have somebody else look at your video. And if their jaw doesn't hit the table when they watch it and they go, oh my God, then it's probably not the right sequence of plays.
I think that for everybody listening, I think Jeff and Anthony just gave you guys some great tools to utilize now moving forward, right? And that's very, very simple. You pick your top 5 plays and you put them at the beginning of your 24 total, okay? And it's as simple as that. Use the information that these experts are providing you guys to create your highlight film. And Anthony and Jeff, this is a question for both of you because I think it's something that's close to your guys' hearts. We're all a little old school to a certain degree, but we all understand and utilize technology and some of this new age feel every single day. How should these student athletes who are creating these highlight films using the advice you just gave them, how should they utilize this on social media? Should they be just pinning it, to their Twitter page? Should they be DMing college coaches? How should they be utilizing these social tools that are available to them with their film?
Well, I've seen Anthony on some tirades the last few or so about Twitter and the kids and their profile pages, and it's absolutely true. You know, these kids, before we get to how they can use it, they first got to be able to set it up to be able to use it. Now, we get kids that make their Twitter handles as Young Jeezy 514, you know, without their names on it and stuff like that. You got to put your name on your Twitter. You got to put your position, your height, your weights, your GPAs, your test scores, you know, your high school, your position. I mean, almost like a little resume in the profile, and put a huddle link on there. And don't link it to your sophomore video. And then the next year you forget, and it goes to your sophomore video, and they're looking at sophomore video and like, what? Just link it to your profile page on Huddle, and then using Twitter, and put a good headshot of yourself, and put a good profile picture of your school profile or your team running out on the field, you know, things like that. Don't put yourself in the back, you know, a picture of your back in your jersey and stuff like that. They want to see your face. We want to see your face, you know, and you got to be smart about it. You know, last year, a Texas sophomore, I followed him on Twitter, and he followed back, and I was evaling him, and I DM'd him. I said, son, do you think you're a Division I player? He goes, yes, sir. I said, well, then change your profile picture, because it was not an appropriate profile picture. And he changed it in 5 minutes, and that helps. You know, you got to be smart with your Twitter and not post fights. I mean, I see things, you know, women twerking and, you know, fights in the cafeteria, and you're not tweeting it, but you're retweeting what your friends did. The colleges look at all that kind of stuff. I mean, there was a college coach on the other day ranting and raving about that, and they dropped a kid's scholarship because of how he conducted himself on Twitter and Instagram. I mean, we get Snapchats, you know, they follow all that kind of stuff. But use Twitter as an advantage. Parents, you got young kids, 24s, 25s, they can have Twitters. I still have my Twitter account passwords for my two kids who are 24 and 21. I still pay their bills. I still have their passwords. You know, so, but that's just, use it as a recruiting tool. Don't go and follow, if your dream school is Florida State or UT or Texas A&M or, you know, UMass or BC, go follow the coaches on that are at that school so you can keep up with them, and then pin your video highlights, but also start sending them to the college coaches, tagging them with their Twitter handles and stuff like that. They're never going to get mad and say, stop doing that. They're going to eventually, they're going to say, this kid, he's pretty good. I need to send it to my guy. You know, so those are the type of things to utilize it as a great recruiting tool.
Anthony, do you want to add on to that? I think Jeff kind of provided a pretty clear picture of what not to do on social media right there.
No, absolutely. I mean, Jeff nailed it, and I'll go even further. And he's heard many of my Twitter tirades, and so have you. But bottom line is, these student athletes need to understand that it doesn't matter what you run the 40 in. It doesn't matter how many touchdowns you had or that you were all district. Bottom line is that Twitter and the social media tools are a weapon for you to differentiate yourself over your competition. There's a lot of good running backs in class 21, 22, 23. There's a lot of good DBs. You have to use the tool in a professional mindset of, this tool can help me earn a scholarship and help my parents not to pay for my education. I think what happens a lot, and Jeff and I talk about this all the time, players get confused, Matt, between having a personal Twitter where they just kind of hang out with their boys and share videos, and me trying to get to Michigan, Alabama, Texas, Baylor, whatever. And you can't mix the two worlds. It's almost like the old Seinfeld episode. You can't mix those two worlds. So if you're truly serious about being a student athlete at the next level and earning that $100,000 to $200,000 scholarship, you got to treat Twitter as your resume, as you mentioned earlier. And everything on that Twitter is about you and your team and your community. Anything that doesn't have to do with that and your family, then it needs to be put somewhere else. Because coaches, as Jeff said, coaches are watching everything you tweet, retweet, and like, and we will use that against you.
Well, and I think there's a couple things just to kind of close the loop on this subject. To the student athletes and the parents watching, you should be yourself on social media. Don't take what Jeff and Anthony are saying right now as as something that they're not encouraging you to be who you are, right? That is a great indicator for a college coach to look at, the type of person that you are. It's okay, to show some emotion and expression on social media. But I think the big point that Anthony and Jeff are trying to get across is that it's not easy to be a Division I, Division II, Division III college football player. Okay, so how you act on social media shouldn't be an easy thing to do either. All right, it's hard to be patient and it's hard to show restraint, but you need to start thinking about that now, because that's what it's going to be like moving forward. So hopefully some of that information was helpful.
Yeah, I got.
And Jeff,
If
go
I,
ahead.
yeah, there's one big thing that's happening these days: fake college coaches' accounts, and we're finding them all the time to where they'll tweet, they'll get kids to follow, and then they DM them and say something about, send me $25 in Cash App, and that'll take care of your registration fee for a on-campus visit. You got to be. College coaches are never going to ask you for money, but the biggest thing to look for when you go if a college coach follows you and you see that they got 100 followers and they just joined last month, that means pretty much that's going to be a fake account. Because even when they change colleges, they take their account and they just change their name on it and keep all their followers. So we found a lot of problems with kids paying money to these fake accounts and following these guys and getting fake. We busted a guy last week, handed out 6 Ole Miss offers where these kids from Missouri to an Alabama kid, a couple of Florida kids and a Louisiana kid got an Ole Miss offer from a fake account, and they were all excited that they got a Power 5 offer. And Ole Miss, I talked to them, and they actually called every kid and apologized, even though it wasn't their doing, to tell them that no, that sorry, it was fake. So be aware of those type accounts on Twitter.
And that's something that's just been popping up, right? I mean, it's kind of a new thing that is really starting to trend almost. Right. So, student athletes and parents, I think one thing we've harped on all night is do your due diligence, right? Do your due diligence when it comes to, which camps and combines and events to attend. Do your due diligence when it comes to, the type of followers and things that you do on social media, and be on the lookout for that. That's something that our viewers tonight, Jeff and Anthony, have commented on about a little bit tonight. They wanted to kind of hear what is going on with these fake coach accounts. So thank you for providing some background on that. Hey guys, before we wrap something up tonight, we got a couple more questions. You guys got a couple more minutes to ask some more questions from people tuned in?
Yep.
Awesome. All right, Matthew McAllister, 2021 wide receiver. He wants to know, Jeff, once they complete your guys' survey at the link that we've shown at the bottom, how do they know if they've been evaluated?
As I said, we don't turn anybody down. Once that's filled out, we put you in the system, we watch the film, we evaluate you, and we send it out to the colleges. We don't look at a kid and say, we're not putting him in. We put them in, we pull up their huddle. Now, if they don't have any huddle, and they don't have any video, especially younger guys, put your YouTube videos in there. We can do a preliminary rating on you, but even if Matthew didn't have any huddle highlights, but he put all that information and we know he's a 21, that he's going to have video next year, we can put him in as a no-rated kid and go back and evaluate him during the fall.
Got it. Matthew, hopefully that answered your question tonight. Anthony, next question is from Paul Meadows. Will college recruiters give some preference for an offensive lineman who can long snap?
Paul, thanks for the question, and absolutely that would be a yes. I tell all offensive linemen in really any position that can long snap that is a great way to have an extended career playing football and even at the next level. I always tell, especially centers, if you are a good enough athlete to be a center, then you should add being a long snapper onto your resume because it's only going to make you more recruitable. So absolutely, from every college coach I've ever met or talked to or worked with, has said that if the offensive lineman can snap under center, in shotgun, and long snap, that kid's going to have a spot on his team for sure.
Yep.
Great, Paul. Hopefully Anthony was able to answer your question. But guys, I want to wrap up tonight. It's been really appreciate you guys being on here for close to an hour tonight. Once again, to everybody that's viewing in, we encourage you guys to take advantage of the resources that people like Anthony and Jeff and XOS provide. Go create a profile. The link is scrolling right now at the bottom of the screen, just like an ESPN ticker, and it's also in the comments section. So feel free to visit that out and get your evaluation done. Get a profile made over there. And then finally, look, we're excited to continuously be partnering with XOS, and we're excited this July 10th through 12th down in Naples, Florida for the FBU Top Gun Showcase. It's a showcase of the summer, and we can't wait to get it going down in the Paradise Coast. We know everybody is excited to get back to football. If you want to earn an invite, you want to get evaluated from people that are from XOS, from the All-American Bowl and NBC, to potentially earn your invitation to that showcase, go to submit your film to FBU Scout at footballuniversity.org. Jeff, Anthony, truly appreciate the time tonight, guys. Look forward to chatting soon, and thank you very much. Good night.
Enjoyed it.
Thanks, Jeff.
Enjoyed it.